Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Science Night. Come in quietly. There is no rush here, no agenda, no quiz at the end. If you are listening to this with your eyes already half closed, that is exactly as it should be. Tonight, we are going to explore one of the most beautiful mysteries your brain performs every single night: the psychology of dreams and memory. How your mind decides what to keep and what to let go. How it heals old wounds while you sleep. And why forgetting is not a failure of memory, but its greatest triumph. So settle in. Let the pillow take the weight of your head. And let us begin. As the lights of the waking world gently fade, and the heavy curtains of the night draw themselves across your weary eyes, your mind begins a profound and ancient journey. It is easy to think of sleep as a time of emptiness, a quiet void where the self simply ceases to be. But beneath the surface of this stillness, deep within the intricate, folding valleys of your brain, a monumental architecture is being assembled. And paradoxically, it is an architecture built not by adding, but by taking away. This is the delicate, beautiful, and absolutely essential process of forgetting. Imagine, for a moment, the sheer volume of information your brain has absorbed today. From the moment you opened your eyes, a relentless tide of sensory data has flooded your nervous system. Millions of photons have crashed into your retinas, translating the light of the sun, the glow of screens, the colors of the world, into electrical impulses. Your ears have processed the complex frequencies of passing cars, the cadence of voices, the hum of the wind. Your skin has mapped the temperature of the air, the texture of your clothes, the comforting warmth of a cup of tea. Every single one of these moments, every thought, every fleeting emotion, every word read and every face recognized, has left a microscopic physical imprint within your skull. In the intricate universe of your cerebral cortex, there are billions of neurons reaching out to one another, communicating through tiny gaps called synapses. During your waking hours, as you learn and experience the world, these synaptic connections grow stronger. This is the biological foundation of memory, a process neuroscientists call long-term potentiation. When neurons fire together, the chemical messengers, neurotransmitters like glutamate, flood across the synaptic cleft. They bind to specific receptors, AMPA and NMDA receptors. On the receiving neuron, this triggers a cascade of molecular events, drawing calcium into the cell and causing the neuron to literally change its physical structure. It sprouts new dendritic spines, expanding its surface area to catch more signals. It is as if, throughout the day, your brain is continuously building countless new bridges and fortifying existing ones, creating an incredibly dense, chaotic network of electrical pathways. But this frantic construction cannot continue endlessly. The brain, representing only about 2% of your body's weight, consumes a staggering 20% of your body's energy. Maintaining these billions of fortified synaptic bridges is metabolically exhausting. If the brain were to simply continue strengthening connections day after day, it would quickly run out of physical space inside the skull, and it would completely deplete your body's energy reserves. The noise of every trivial memory, the exact shade of a passing car, the texture of a napkin, would drown out the signals of what truly matters. And so, the brain must find a way to restore balance. It must dismantle the unnecessary to preserve the essential. It must forget. As you drift down, deeper and deeper into the stages of non-REM sleep, eventually reaching the profound stillness of slow-wave sleep, a remarkable transformation occurs across the landscape of your cortex. The frantic, high-frequency, chaotic chatter of waking consciousness begins to synchronize. Millions of neurons begin to fire together, and then fall silent together, in slow, sweeping, majestic waves. These are the delta waves. If you were to listen to the electrical activity of the brain now, it would not sound like the chaotic static of the day, but rather like the slow, deep, rhythmic beating of a drum. Boom, and then a vast, sweeping stillness. During these slow waves, a masterpiece of biological engineering takes place. A process known as synaptic homeostasis, or proportional downscaling. Under the cover of darkness, the brain begins to systematically weaken the synaptic connections that were built during the day. It is a general scaling down of the entire network. But the brilliance of this process lies in its proportionality. Imagine a forest where some trees have grown tall and strong, while others are merely fragile saplings. If a storm sweeps through and reduces the height of every tree by exactly the same proportion, the strongest trees will still remain the tallest, while the weakest saplings will be swept away entirely. This is exactly how your brain decides what to remember and what to forget. The memories that are deeply important, the skills you practiced with intense focus, the emotional milestones. These created strong, robust synaptic connections. The trivial details, the background noise of the day, created only weak connections. As the slow waves of deep sleep wash over the cortex, they apply a gentle, continuous pressure, shrinking all synapses equally. The weak connections. The memories of what you had for lunch, or the face of a stranger in a crowd, shrink until they vanish completely. They are pruned away, returning to nothingness. But the strong connections, though they are also scaled down to conserve energy, remain significantly stronger than the baseline. The noise is erased, leaving only the clear, pristine signal of what truly matters. In this way, forgetting is not a failure of the mind. It is a meticulous curation. It is the artist chipping away the excess marble to reveal the sculpture within. And this biological pruning extends far beyond the mere organization of facts and skills. It touches the very core of your emotional well-being. Throughout our lives, we inevitably encounter moments of sorrow, embarrassment, anxiety, and heartbreak. When these events occur, they are seared into our memory with intense emotional clarity. The amygdala, a small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep within the brain, acts as the emotional siren. During a stressful or painful experience, the amygdala floods your system with stress hormones, cortisol and noradrenaline. It commands the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, to record every single detail of the event, so that you might avoid such pain in the future. When you first recall a difficult memory, the emotional pain is often as sharp as the moment it occurred. Your heart rate increases. Your chest tightens. Your palms sweat. The memory and the visceral, emotional response are tightly bound together. If they were to remain forever linked, we would be endlessly paralyzed by the traumas of our past. We would carry the unbearable weight of every sorrow, accumulating a lifetime of emotional burden that would eventually crush our spirit. But the architecture of sleep provides a sanctuary. It orchestrates a beautiful phenomenon known in psychology as the fading effect bias. This is the mind's gentle mechanism for self-protection. A slow, steady process of emotional softening. The fading effect bias ensures that as time passes, the emotional intensity of negative memories fades much faster than the emotional intensity of positive ones. We hold on to the joy, the love, the triumphs, while the sting of sadness and embarrassment is slowly washed away. And the heavy lifting of this emotional alchemy occurs while you dream. As you cycle out of the deep, slow wave sleep and enter REM sleep. Rapid eye movement sleep. Your brain becomes highly active again. The electrical patterns look astonishingly similar to waking consciousness. But there is a profound neurochemical difference. During the day, and even during other stages of sleep, your brain is bathed in noradrenaline, a chemical cousin of adrenaline that keeps the brain sensitive to stress and anxiety. But as you enter REM sleep, a tiny region in the brainstem called the locus coeruleus, the primary source of noradrenaline, goes completely silent. It shuts down entirely. For these brief, magical periods of REM sleep, your brain is completely devoid of its primary stress, neurochemical. It is the only time in your 24-hour cycle when this happens, and it is in this chemically safe, calm, stress-free environment that the brain brings out the difficult, emotional memories of the day. The hippocampus retrieves the memory, and the cortex processes it. But because there is no noradrenaline present, the amygdala cannot trigger the visceral, physical panic. You dream about the things that trouble you. You replay the anxieties and the fears, but you do so in a neurochemical cocoon of safety. The brain is actively stripping the emotional charge away from the memory. It is dismantling the painful somatic response, uncoupling the memory of what happened from the visceral pain of how it felt. Night after night, REM sleep acts as a kind of overnight therapy. It takes the sharp, jagged edges of your painful experiences and gently sands them down. It transforms a traumatic event into a historical fact. You remember that the event occurred, but you no longer feel the suffocating grip of the emotion. This is the profound grace of the fading affect bias. The mind actively works to heal itself. It protects you from the emotional scars of the past, so that you have the strength to face the future. Forgetting is not losing a part of yourself. It is making room for the morning. And just as the mind cleanses itself of emotional debris, the brain must also physically cleanse itself. The biological cost of waking consciousness is not merely energetic, it is material. The relentless firing of neurons, the metabolic engine of your thoughts, produces waste. Just as a fire leaves behind ash, the cellular machinery of your brain leaves behind metabolic byproducts. Throughout the day, proteins begin to accumulate in the microscopic spaces between the brain cells. The interstitial fluid. Among these byproducts are tau proteins and amyloid beta, a sticky, toxic protein that, if left to accumulate, can form plaques that disrupt neuronal function and contribute to neurodegenerative diseases. For decades, scientists were puzzled. Every other organ in the human body is connected to the lymphatic system, a network of vessels that clears away cellular waste. But the brain, isolated behind the impenetrable fortress of the blood-brain barrier, has no lymphatic vessels. How then does this incredibly active organ keep itself clean? The answer, and the genuine awe of discovering this for the first time, was discovered only recently by neuroscientist Maiken Nedergaard and her team, is a breathtakingly elegant system that operates almost exclusively while we are deeply asleep. It is called the glymphatic system. To understand the glymphatic system, you must visualize the delicate, intricate plumbing of the brain, pumping from your heart. Life-giving blood travels up through the carotid arteries, branching into smaller and smaller vessels, penetrating deep into the dense tissue of the brain. Surrounding these blood vessels is a tiny, fluid-filled space, known as the perivascular space. And forming the outer wall of this space are the end feet of specialized glial cells, called astrocytes. Astrocytes are the unsung heroes of the brain, star-shaped cells that support, nourish, and protect the neurons. The end feet of these astrocytes completely wrap around the blood vessels, acting as a biological valve, and embedded within these end feet are tiny, specialized channels called aquaporin. 4. Channels designed to allow only water to pass through. During your waking hours, these channels are largely closed. The brain is awake. The neurons are firing, and the space between the cells is incredibly tight, packed densely to allow for rapid electrical communication. There is no room for a cleaning crew. But as you surrender to sleep, as the slow, rhythmic delta waves begin to roll across the cortex, an astonishing physical transformation occurs. The neurons themselves, sensing the chemical shift of deep sleep, actually shrink in size. They retract. The space between the brain cells, the interstitial space, suddenly expands by up to 60%. The tight, crowded city of the waking brain opens up, creating wide avenues and expansive boulevards. And then, the glymphatic system activates. The aquaporin, 4 channels on the astrocytes open wide. Cerebrospinal fluid. The clear, pure, buoyant liquid that surrounds your brain and spinal cord is actively pumped into the brain tissue. It is driven by the rhythmic pulsing of the arteries, synchronized with the slow, deep breathing of sleep. The cerebrospinal fluid rushes through the perivascular spaces, passes through the astrocyte water channels, and washes over the shrinking neurons. It is a literal, physical washing of the brain, a profound, internal cleansing. The fluid surges through the expanded spaces between the cells, sweeping up the toxic amyloid beta, gathering the tangled tau proteins, collecting all the metabolic ash and cellular debris of the waking day. It carries this waste towards the veins, flushing it out of the brain, down into the liver, where it is finally eliminated from the body. This is why deep sleep is non-negotiable. This is why, From an evolutionary standpoint, every animal on Earth is willing to render itself completely vulnerable, unconscious to the threats of the world, for hours at a time. The biological necessity of this cleaning cycle is absolute. Without the deep, rhythmic washing of the glymphatic system, the toxic proteins would build up, the synapses would become clogged, and the beautiful, complex machinery of the mind would slowly grind to a halt. Sleep is not a passive state of rest. It is an active, vital process of biological sanitation and renewal. So as you lie here now, let go of the need to hold on to the day. Allow yourself to release your grip on the day. Give your mind the permission to release its grip. Picture this incredible process happening within you right now. Visualize a gentle, warm, crystal clear stream of water slowly beginning to flow through the pathways of your mind. Imagine this soothing current moving effortlessly through the dense forests of your neurons, washing away the fatigue, carrying away the heavy, stagnant energy of the day. With every slow, deep breath you take, the pulse of the water grows a little stronger, a little more rhythmic. Breathe in, and the clear water flows in, bringing a profound sense of peace and purification. Breathe out, and the water flows away, carrying with it the fragments of worries, the echoes of stress, the tiny, unimportant details that no longer serve you. Feel the physical relief as the space within your mind opens up, expanding, relaxing, creating room for the healing waters to move. The toxic weight of anxiety is dissolving, breaking apart, and being swept gently downstream. The sharp edges of difficult memories are being smoothed over, polished like stones in a riverbed, until they are nothing more than soft, harmless pebbles. I want you to picture this happening right now, inside your own skull, as gently and as surely as a tide. You are being cleansed from the inside out. Every cell, every synapse, every microscopic fold of your brain is being bathed in tranquility. The heavy burden of remembering everything is lifting, floating away on the gentle tide. You are safe here in the dark. You are protected. The ancient, brilliant intelligence of your body is taking over, doing exactly what it was designed to do. Clearing the clutter, soothing the emotional fires, and washing away the ashes of the day. Allow yourself to drift deeper into this profound state of cellular cleaning. Feel the soothing rhythm of the waves, washing, purifying, restoring. There is nothing you need to figure out right now. There is no problem you need to solve. There is only the breath and the gentle, rhythmic flow of the water, carrying you deeper and deeper into the dark, healing sanctuary of deep sleep. Every time your chest rises, the soothing current sweeps through the vast, quiet landscapes of your mind, clearing the fog, washing away the shadows. And every time your chest falls, you sink a little further into the comforting embrace of the night. You are being renewed. You are being rebuilt by the very act of letting go. The architecture of forgetting is constructing a pristine, beautiful space for your consciousness to inhabit tomorrow. But for now, just rest. Let the water flow. Let the memories fade. Let the stillness wash over you, layer by layer, wave by gentle wave, as you drift peacefully, endlessly, into the quiet, deep. Consider for a moment the profound philosophical implications of this biological reality. We live in a society that constantly urges us to acquire, to accumulate, to remember. We are told that our memories define us, that the sum total of our experiences is the very fabric of our identity. We fear memory loss as the ultimate erosion of the self. And yet, the most fundamental biological truth of our neurology is that without the active, continuous destruction of memory, the self could not survive. The mind must relentlessly curate its own contents, discarding the vast majority of its experiences in order to maintain a coherent sense of reality. Think about the sheer impossibility of perfect memory. There is something remarkable here, something that changes how we understand memory forever. There is a rare neurological condition known as hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory. Individuals with this condition can remember almost every day of their lives with astonishing, visceral detail. If you ask them what they were doing on a random Tuesday 10 years ago, they can tell you what they wore, what they ate, what the weather was like, and every fleeting emotion they felt. It sounds like a superpower, an incredible gift of cognitive retention. But for many who live with it, it is described as an unbearable burden. When the mind cannot forget, the past is never truly past. The pain of a childhood heartbreak remains as vivid and raw decades later as the day it occurred. The mind becomes a hoarder's house, packed to the ceiling with irrelevant details, unable to separate the meaningful narrative of life from the suffocating static of daily existence. The ability to generalize, to abstract concepts from specific experiences, relies on forgetting the specific details and retaining only the core lesson. If you remember every single dog you have ever seen in agonizing detail, you might struggle to form the abstract concept of a dog. Forgetting is the chisel that sculpts knowledge out of the raw block of raw data. This brings us back to the slow, sweeping delta waves of deep sleep. and the elegant process of proportional downscaling. The synapses that are weakened and erased are not lost by accident. They are removed by design. The brain is essentially running a complex algorithm every single night, evaluating the survival value and emotional resonance of the day's events. When you practice playing the piano, or learn a new language, or have a deeply meaningful conversation with a loved one, the neurons involved in those activities fire repeatedly, strongly, and persistently. They signal to the brain's internal accounting system. This is important. This requires energy. Save this. But the background noise of the coffee shop, the license plate of the car in front of you, the mild frustration of dropping a pen, these activate the neurons only briefly, weakly. When the slow waves roll through, the downscaling process acts like a tide retreating from the beach. The shallow footprints left by the trivial events are completely washed away, leaving the sand smooth and pristine. But the deep, fortified sandcastles of your important memories remain, standing even taller relative to the newly smoothed landscape around them. This is extraordinarily comforting, and you might find it so too. The beauty of this is that it happens entirely without your conscious effort. You do not have to decide what to forget. You do not need to sit down and categorize the events of your day into folders of keep and discard. The ancient, evolutionary wisdom embedded in the structure of your cortex does the work for you. It knows what to hold on to. It knows what makes you who you are. The rest is simply return to the void, freeing up the precious metabolic energy and physical synaptic space you will need to face the novel challenges of tomorrow. And the interplay between the emotional processing of REM sleep and the memory consolidation of deep non-REM sleep is a delicate, perfectly choreographed dance. During the first half of the night, your sleep is dominated by the deep, slow-wave sleep. This is the period of intense physical cleaning. The glymphatic system washing away the amyloid beta and the proportional downscaling pruning the synaptic trees. The brain is optimizing its hardware. But as the night progresses, the cycles shift. The periods of deep sleep become shorter, and the periods of REM sleep become longer. The brain shifts its focus from the physical maintenance of the network to the emotional integration of the software. It begins to weave the newly consolidated memories into the vast, existing tapestry of your life story. It is during this time, bathed in that neurochemical environment, devoid of stress hormones, that the fading affect bias performs its deepest work. The mind is a spectacular engine for generating narrative. In our dreams, the hippocampus offers up the fragments of the day's experiences, and the prefrontal cortex, though its logical, rational constraints are loosened, attempts to weave these fragments into a story This is why dreams can be so bizarre, so surreal. The brain is making novel, unexpected connections, trying to find meaning and resolution in the events of waking life. When we experience something traumatic or deeply upsetting, the memory is stored like a jagged, sharp piece of glass. It doesn't fit neatly into the tapestry. Every time the waking mind brushes against it, it cuts. It causes pain. But during REM sleep, the brain takes that jagged piece of glass and turns it over and over. Without the noradrenaline to cause the somatic panic, it can handle the sharp edges safely. It connects the painful memory to other, softer memories. It places the trauma in a broader context. It reminds the system that despite the pain, you survived. The threat has passed. Night after night. Dream cycle after dream cycle. The sharp edges of the glass are worn down. The memory is gradually integrated. It becomes a part of the tapestry. A darker thread, perhaps, but one that no longer threatens to unravel the whole fabric. The emotional charge is decoupled from the narrative memory. You still know what happened, but you no longer feel the devastating weight of it. This is the profound, silent therapy that your brain performs for you every single night. This might be one of the most hopeful things science has ever revealed about being human. It is a testament to the incredible resilience of the human mind. We are built to heal. We are built to endure. And the very mechanism of that endurance, the very foundation of our emotional stability, is our capacity to forget the intensity of the pain. Let this knowledge bring you a profound sense of comfort. You do not need to carry the weight of the world upon your shoulders. You do not need to hold on to every slight, every mistake, every moment of sadness or embarrassment. The exquisite machinery of your own biology is designed to release you from those burdens. It is designed to let them fade. As you sink deeper into the mattress, feel the literal, physical processes of this release happening within you. The slow, rhythmic delta waves are beginning their sweep. The glymphatic system is opening its channels, preparing to wash the intricate valleys of your cortex. The locus coeruleus is quieting down, preparing to shut off the flow of stress hormones, creating a safe, calm harbor for your mind to process its emotions. There is nothing you need to do to make this happen. It is as natural as the beating of your heart or the drawing of breath. You only need to surrender. You only need to trust the deep, ancestral wisdom of your body. Allow the darkness to be a blanket. Heavy, comforting, and secure. Feel the tension melting away from the muscles in your face, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders. With every exhalation, Imagine releasing a physical cloud of tension, watching it dissipate into the cool night air. The architecture of forgetting is at work. The scaffolding of tomorrow is being erected by the gentle, necessary dismantling of today. Let the trivial details fall away. Let the noise fade into a distant, quiet hum, and then into silence. The warm, clear stream of the glymphatic flow is washing through, soothing, cleansing, restoring. Every tiny crevice of your mind is being bathed in peace. The heavy, sharp edges of the day are softening, blurring, dissolving. You are safe. You are healing. You are making room for the morning. Drift now into the deep, into the quiet, into the beautiful, necessary void, where the mind finds its true rest and the spirit is quietly, miraculously renewed. Imagine, if you will, the early ancestors of humanity, sleeping beneath a canopy of stars on the ancient savannas. The night was a time of immense danger. The darkness concealed predators. The cold threatened survival. To fall asleep, to lose consciousness, and render oneself entirely vulnerable was a massive evolutionary risk. Why would natural selection favor a behavior that requires us to be completely helpless for a third of our lives? The answer lies in the sheer, undeniable, biological necessity of the processes we have explored. The need to downscale synapses, the need to flush toxic amyloid beta from the brain, the need to decouple emotion from memory. These imperatives were so critical to survival that they outweighed the risk of being eaten in the dark. Sleep is not a luxury. It is the fundamental bedrock of our biological and psychological existence. Consider the role of cortisol, the hormone that wakes us up and keeps us alert to danger. Throughout the day, your cortisol levels fluctuate, responding to stress, excitement, and the demands of your environment. It keeps you sharp, focused, ready to react. But this heightened state of alert is toxic if sustained indefinitely. High levels of cortisol over long periods damage the hippocampus, the very structure required for forming new memories. It literally shrinks the brain's memory centers. Therefore, the brain must have a period of complete cortisol suppression. As you transition into deep sleep, your body actively suppresses the release of this stress hormone. The adrenal glands quiet down. The heart rate slows to a gentle, steady rhythm. Blood pressure drops. The entire cardiovascular system is given a chance to rest and repair. This systemic physiological calming is intimately tied to the brain's ability to prune and cleanse itself. The brain cannot effectively wash away the day's debris if the body is still braced for a threat. The architecture of forgetting requires a foundation of absolute physical safety. And what of the prefrontal cortex? This is the most evolved and advanced part of your brain. Situated just behind your forehead, it is the seat of logic, reason, decision-making, and impulse control. It is the CEO of the mind, constantly managing the emotional impulses of the amygdala, planning for the future, and keeping your behavior aligned with your goals. By the end of a long day, the prefrontal cortex is exhausted. The phenomenon of decision fatigue is a very real, biological depletion of the energy reserves in this specific region of the brain. When you feel too tired to make one more choice, it is because your prefrontal cortex has physically run out of fuel. Deep sleep is the time when this crucial command center goes offline to recharge. During slow-wave sleep, the metabolic activity in the prefrontal cortex drops dramatically. It is given a reprieve from the relentless demands of conscious control, and as it rests, the process of synaptic downscaling clears out the clutter of the day's trivial decisions. This pruning is what restores your capacity for clear, rational thought. When you wake up after a night of deep, restorative sleep, the noise has been cleared. The prefrontal cortex is refreshed, its synapses optimized. You can think clearly again, because the brain has actively forgotten the exhausting minutiae of yesterday. Let's return to the visualization of the glymphatic system. This miraculous internal washing. But let us look closer. At the microscopic level, the astrocytes, those star-shaped guardians of the brain, are not just passive pipes. They are active, dynamic cells. Their end feet, wrapped around the blood vessels, are covered in thousands of tiny aquaporin, 4 channels. Imagine these channels like the pores of a sponge. When you are awake, the sponge is tightly squeezed, closed off. But as you sink into deep sleep, a chemical signal, perhaps a drop in noradrenaline, causes the sponge to relax and expand. The pores open. The cerebrospinal fluid, which is normally confined to the ventricles inside the brain and the space surrounding the spinal cord, is drawn into the brain tissue itself. It pulses forward with every beat of your heart. A gentle, rhythmic tidal wave on a microscopic scale. It flows into the perivascular space, through the aquaporin channels, and into the dense forest of neurons. It flows through the spaces where the synapses are being pruned, acting as a solvent, dissolving the metabolic waste, the toxic proteins, the cellular exhaust. And then it flows out. It carries the debris away, out of the brain, down through the lymphatic vessels of the neck, to be filtered and eliminated by the body. It is a continuous, rhythmic cycle of purification. Wash and release. Cleanse and let go. This is the physical manifestation of forgetting. It is not just an abstract cognitive process. It is a tangible, fluid dynamic. The physical matter of your brain is literally being washed clean of the past, preparing a fresh, pristine slate for the future. So, as the night deepens around you, allow this profound biological truth to bring you immense peace. You do not need to consciously manage your mind right now. You do not need to organize your thoughts, or solve your problems, or worry about what you might forget. Forgetting is exactly what you are supposed to be doing. It is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a calm, dark lake at midnight. The water is perfectly still, reflecting the faint light of the stars. The air is cool and silent. You are holding in your hands a collection of heavy, dark stones. These stones are the worries, the stresses, the trivial details, and the sharp emotional memories of the day. They weigh you down. They exhaust you. On, be on. You begin to drop the stones into the dark water. You hear a soft, gentle splash. You watch the ripples expand outward, growing wider and fainter, until the surface of the lake is perfectly smooth and still once again. The stone is gone. It has sunk into the unfathomable depths, swallowed by the dark water. It is no longer your burden to carry. Drop another stone. A memory of an awkward conversation. Splash. The ripples spread. And fodder. The water is still. Drop another. A worry about a task left undone. Splash. It sinks into the cool, dark, deep. Gone with every stone you drop. You feel lighter. You feel a profound sense of relief washing over you, unburdening your shoulders, unclenching your chest. You are letting go of the day. You are allowing the waters of the deep mind to swallow the noise, leaving only the pristine, quiet surface of your consciousness. Feel the soothing rhythm of the water, the gentle, rhythmic washing of the glymphatic flow within your own mind. Pulse. And wash. Pulse. And release. The heavy proteins are being swept away. The unnecessary synapses are dissolving into the quiet hum of the delta waves. The emotional fires of the amygdala are being gently extinguished by the cool, calming chemistry of REM sleep. You are safe. You are held in the vast, comforting embrace of the night. There is nothing left to do but surrender. There is no more thinking required. Only the slow, steady rhythm of your breath, aligning with the slow, steady rhythm of the brain's deep, healing waves. Breathe in the cool, purifying air. Breathe out the last remnants of tension. Feel yourself sinking, drifting floating down into the deepest, quietest layers of sleep, where the mind is washed clean, where the spirit is restored, where forgetting makes beautiful. Infinite room for the light of tomorrow. Sleep now. Rest deeply, and let the gentle waters of the night carry you away. As you drift deeper into the night, your brain embarks on a profound and entirely invisible metamorphosis. You have crossed the threshold from the quiet stillness of deep, restorative slumber into a landscape that is both bizarre and entirely essential for your psychological survival. You're entering the realm of rapid eye movement sleep, the laboratory of your dreams. Within this hidden theater of the mind, a neurochemical miracle is quietly unfolding. It begins deep within the brainstem, in a tiny cluster of neurons known as the locus coeruleus. Throughout your waking hours, this tiny structure acts as an alarm system, bathing your brain in noradrenaline, the stress hormone responsible for your fight or flight response. It is the chemical that makes your heart race when you are frightened, the substance that creates the visceral feeling of anxiety, of panic, of being overwhelmed by the world around you. But now, as you plunge into the depths of REM sleep, something extraordinary happens. The locus coeruleus goes completely and entirely still. For the first time in 24 hours, the flow of noradrenaline is completely shut off. Your brain is entirely stripped of its stress neurochemistry. It is a profound state of biological calm, a sanctuary from the physiological anxieties of waking life. And yet, while the stress chemicals have vanished, the emotional centers of your brain are roaring to life. The amygdala, the almond-shaped structure deep within the temporal lobe, suddenly begins to fire with astonishing intensity. It is up to 30% more active now than when you were awake. The hippocampus, the archivist of your daily experiences, is simultaneously churning through the memories of your day, serving up the raw material of your waking life. Your conversations, your fears, your unresolved conflicts, your profoundest hopes. They are all brought to the surface of your subconscious mind. But because the noradrenaline is gone, because the chemical signal for panic has been eradicated, you are able to process these intensely emotional memories in a state of complete neurological safety. In the theater of dreams, you are performing open-heart surgery on your own memories. Without feeling the pain, you are stepping into the burning buildings of your past. But the flames have lost their heat. This is the genius of your neurobiology. The brain is intentionally separating the memory of an event from the emotional charge that originally accompanied it. It is stripping away the sharp edges of trauma, dissolving the visceral sting of rejection, softening the harsh contours of daily stress. Night after night, your mind acts as a nocturnal therapist, taking the difficult, the terrifying, and the painful moments of your life and gently metabolizing them in this neurochemically safe environment. Imagine a difficult conversation you had today. Perhaps words spoken in anger, or a moment of profound embarrassment. When that memory was formed, it was coated in the bitter neurochemical shell of stress and adrenaline. If you were to store it exactly as it happened, every time you recalled it, you would feel the exact same physiological panic, the same tightness in your chest, the same burning in your cheeks. But the dreaming brain refuses to let you carry that burden permanently. It forces you to relive the experience, often weaving it into bizarre, surreal narratives. But it does so while your brain is entirely flooded with calming neurotransmitters like acetylcholine and serotonin. While the stress system is locked away, by morning, the memory remains, but the emotional venom has been extracted. You can remember the event, but the visceral reaction has faded. This is not merely a metaphor for healing. It is the literal, biological mechanism of emotional resilience. Without this process, without this nocturnal emotional first aid, we would be trapped in a permanent state of psychological reactivity, forever hostage to the raw, emotional intensity of our past. But dreams are not merely a mechanism for emotional pacification. They are an active, dynamic laboratory for survival. To understand the true purpose of the dreamscape, we must look back across the vast expanse of evolutionary history. Our ancestors lived in a world of constant, unpredictable peril. The rustle of grass could be the wind, or it could be a predator. A misstep on a treacherous path could mean the end of a lineage. To survive in such an entirely unforgiving environment, the human brain needed a way to practice for catastrophe. Without actually putting the physical body in danger. And so, the phenomenon of the dream was born as an evolutionary threat simulation system. When you dream of falling, of being chased, of forgetting the lines to a play, of showing up unprepared to an examination, you are not merely experiencing random neuronal firing. You are running complex, high-stakes simulations in the ultimate virtual reality environment. Your brain is constructing elaborate scenarios of failure, embarrassment, and physical danger, forcing you to navigate them in real time. The prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical, reality-checking center of your brain, is intentionally powered down during REM sleep. This deliberate deactivation removes all the boundaries of physical reality and logic, allowing the brain to generate extreme, worst-case scenarios that defy the laws of physics and the constraints of time. Why would the brain subject itself to such bizarre and often terrifying experiences? Because in the crucible of the dream, your nervous system is learning. It is refining its escape routes. It is practicing its emotional regulation in the face of sudden fear. It is preparing you for the infinite unpredictabilities of waking life. And still, while your mind is wildly active, fighting phantom predators and navigating surreal landscapes, your physical body is entirely completely paralyzed. The brainstem sends a powerful inhibitory signal down your spinal cord, effectively disconnecting your motor cortex from your muscles. This mechanism, known as REM atonia, is an evolutionary masterpiece. It ensures that no matter how vividly you are running, fighting, or flying in your dreams, your physical body remains perfectly still, perfectly safe within the sanctuary of your bed. It is a profound paradox. Your mind is experiencing the absolute limits of human emotion and action, while your body rests in the deepest state of physical surrender. And it is in this state of profound physical surrender that another miraculous transformation occurs: the consolidation of procedural memory. We often think of memory as a collection of facts and autobiographical events. But there is another, deeper kind of memory. The memory of how to do things. How to ride a bicycle. How to play a melody on the piano. How to swing a tennis racket. How to perform a delicate surgical procedure. These are procedural memories, and they are primarily forged in the fires of sleep. When you learn a new physical skill during the day, you are merely acquiring the raw data, the clumsy, conscious, effortful movements. But it is during the night, specifically in the delicate dance between non-REM and REM sleep, that these movements are refined, perfected, and woven into the subconscious architecture of your brain. During the lighter stages of sleep, your motor cortex begins to silently replay the specific sequences of neuronal firing that occurred when you were practicing the skill. It replays them at incredible speeds, sometimes 10 or 20 times faster than in waking life. It is as if the brain is rapidly rewinding and fast-forwarding through a tape, searching for inefficiencies, smoothing out the rough edges, pruning away the unnecessary neural connections, and strengthening the essential ones. And then, as you slip into the dreaming state, your brain begins to integrate this physical knowledge with the broader emotional and spatial context of your life. It links the precise movement of your fingers on a piano to the emotional resonance of the music. It connects the balance of the bicycle to the spatial awareness of the world moving around you. This is why you can struggle with a complex physical task for hours, go to sleep in a state of total frustration, and wake up the next morning miraculously able to perform it with effortless grace. The practice did not make perfect, the sleep made perfect. Your brain, working in the quiet isolation of the night, who did the heavy lifting of learning while your conscious mind was entirely unaware. As this neurochemical symphony continues to play out in the darkness, we begin to understand that sleep is not merely an absence of wakefulness, but an entirely distinct state of consciousness, with its own rules, its own logic, and its own profound biological imperatives. Consider the sheer amount of information you absorb during a single day. Every face you see, every word you read, every subtle shift in the tone of a friend's voice, every article you glance at, every thought that briefly crosses your mind. It is an overwhelming tsunami of data. If your brain were to hold on to all of it, the neural networks would quickly become saturated, paralyzed by the sheer volume of noise. And in this way, the sleeping brain must become a ruthless editor. During the deep stages of slow-wave sleep, a massive wave of electrical activity sweeps across the neocortex, the wrinkled outer layer of the brain where complex thought and long-term memory reside. These slow waves, rolling through the brain like deep ocean swells, synchronize the firing of millions of neurons. This electrical rhythm facilitates the transfer of facts and events from the short-term storage vault of the hippocampus to the permanent, long-term archives of the neocortex. It is a process of memory consolidation, where the day's experiences are solidified. But more importantly, it is a process of aggressive forgetting. Your brain must actively dissolve the synaptic connections of irrelevant information to clear the slate for the next day. It selectively prunes the neural branches that hold the trivial, the mundane, the unnecessary details. This act of active forgetting is not a failure of memory. It is the very foundation of intelligence. By stripping away the noise, the brain allows the signal to emerge with startling clarity. And it is this clarity that sets the stage for the true magic of the dreaming mind, the phenomenon of creative synthesis. When you transition back into REM sleep, the brain changes gears entirely. The slow waves are replaced by rapid, desynchronized electrical activity, looking almost identical on an electroencephalogram to the brain of a person who is wide awake and intensely focused. The brain is suddenly flooded with acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter intimately involved in learning, memory, and cognitive flexibility. But remember, your prefrontal cortex, the center of logical, linear thinking, is powered down. This creates a neurological environment of unprecedented freedom. Without the strict, critical oversight of the prefrontal cortex, the brain is free to make wild, disparate connections between seemingly unrelated pieces of information. It searches the vast archives of your memory, pulling a concept from your childhood, merging it with a conversation you had yesterday, and weaving it into an abstract visual metaphor. This is why dreams are so profoundly strange. But it is also why they are the ultimate engine of human creativity. The dreaming brain is trying to solve the problems that your waking, logical mind could not. It is looking for the hidden patterns, the invisible threads that connect the complex phenomena of your life. It is in this bizarre, hallucinatory state that scientific breakthroughs are born, that mathematical equations are suddenly resolved, that the perfect melody is discovered. The brain is experimenting with infinite combinations of knowledge, unconstrained by the laws of probability or the fear of failure. It is a boundless, creative laboratory where the only limit is the sum total of your life experiences. But to fully access this laboratory, to receive the profound healing and creative power of the dreamscape, you must engage in the ultimate act of biological surrender. You must completely let go of all defensive barriers. Think about how tightly you hold yourself during the day. The muscular tension in your shoulders, the shallow breathing in your chest, the constant vigilance of your senses, scanning the environment for threats, psychological or physical. The ego is constantly at work, maintaining your identity, defending your pride, repressing the thoughts and feelings that are too painful or too complicated to face in the light of day. We spend our waking hours armored, guarded, protected by 1,000 invisible psychological shields. But as you slip beneath the surface of consciousness, those shields must be lowered. On be one. The defenses fall away. The muscular armor dissolves as the brainstem paralyzes the body. The vigilance of the senses fades as the thalamus, the gateway of sensory information, closes its doors to the outside world. You become entirely blind, deo, and numb to the physical room around you. And finally, the psychological armor of the ego dissolves as the prefrontal cortex shuts down. You are left completely naked, completely vulnerable, alone in the vast, uncharted wilderness of your own subconscious mind. This profound vulnerability is terrifying to the waking mind, but it is absolutely essential for deep psychological healing. You cannot perform surgery through a suit of armor, and your brain cannot heal its deepest emotional wounds if it is constantly defending itself. In the dream state, you are forced to confront the raw, unfiltered truth of your own emotional reality. The anxieties you repressed during the day will manifest as terrifying landscapes. The desires you ignored will take the shape of beautiful, impossible visions. The grief you refuse to feel will wash over you in a tidal wave of symbolic imagery. There is no hiding from yourself in the theater of dreams. Your subconscious mind will meticulously dismantle the carefully constructed narratives of your waking life. and show you exactly what is hurting, exactly what needs attention, exactly what must be integrated for you to become whole. This process of nocturnal integration is mediated by a complex network of brain regions known as the default mode network. This network, which connects the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, and the angular gyrus, is the neurological seat of the self. It is the system that generates your continuous sense of identity, your internal monologue, your understanding of your own past and future. During wakefulness, this network is active when you are daydreaming or lost in thought. But during REM sleep, it is pushed to its absolute limits. The default mode network begins to weave the raw, disconnected fragments of your memories and emotions into a cohesive, narrative structure. It is trying to make sense of the chaos, trying to integrate the difficult experiences of your life into the broader, ongoing story of who you are. When you experience a trauma, or a profound loss, or a period of intense stress, the narrative of your life is shattered. The events do not make sense. They do not fit into your understanding of the world. This cognitive dissonance causes immense psychological pain. But night after night, the dreaming brain goes to work, taking the jagged pieces of the broken narrative and patiently, persistently, attempting to fit them back together. It tests different scenarios, different emotional responses, different philosophical meanings. It is a continuous, iterative process of meaning-making. And as the night deepens, as you cycle through stage after stage of slow-wave sleep and rapid eye movement, this invisible labor continues. The amygdala processes the fear. The hippocampus consolidates the memory. The neocortex integrates the knowledge. The motor cortex refines the skill. The default mode network reconstructs the identity. It is a biological symphony of unimaginable complexity, playing out in the absolute silence of your bedroom. You are entirely unaware of the massive expenditure of energy, the intricate neurochemical dances, the profound psychological reorganizations occurring beneath the surface of your awareness. You are merely resting, merely drifting through the dark, breathing softly in the quiet night. Yet every breath you take is a testament to the remarkable resilience of the human organism. You are biologically designed to heal. You are biologically designed to learn, to adapt, and to overcome the inevitable sufferings of existence. The sleep drive, the overwhelming, irresistible urge to close your eyes and surrender to the darkness, is not merely a mechanism for physical rest. It is the psychological immune system kicking into gear. When you feel the weight of exhaustion pulling at your eyelids, when the world becomes too loud, too bright, and too demanding. It is your brain telling you that it is time to withdraw. It is time to enter the sanctuary. It is time to let the neurochemistry of stress subside and allow the neurochemistry of healing to take over. Imagine the sheer evolutionary brilliance required to design a system where the cure for our deepest emotional wounds is simply to lie down and close our eyes. We search the external world for solutions to our anxieties. We consume medications. We seek distractions. We chase after achievements and relationships in the hope that they will soothe the restless aching of our minds. But the most powerful, the most sophisticated, and the most profoundly effective mechanism for psychological restoration is already built into the very architecture of our nervous system. It requires no effort, no wealth, no external intervention. It requires only surrender. It requires only that we trust the darkness, that we let go of our desperate grip on consciousness, and allow the ancient, biological wisdom of the dreaming brain to do its work. As we explore the topography of this nocturnal world, we must also acknowledge the delicate balance of the neurochemicals that make this journey possible. The precise timing of the neurotransmitters, the ebb and flow of serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, and GABA must be perfectly orchestrated for the dreamscape to function. When the sun sets and the light fades from the retina, the pineal gland deep within the brain begins to secrete melatonin, the hormone of darkness. Melatonin does not directly cause sleep. Rather, it is the biological signal that opens the gates. It tells the brain and the body that the time for wakefulness has passed, that the environment is safe, and that the grand physiological transition can begin as melatonin levels rise. The core body temperature begins to drop. The heart rate slows. The blood pressure falls. The brain shifts from the fast, chaotic beta waves of waking consciousness to the slower, more rhythmic alpha waves of relaxation, and finally into the deep, rolling delta waves of true slumber. In this state of deep delta sleep, the glymphatic system, the brain's unique waste clearance network, is activated over the course of each day. As your neurons fire and consume energy, they produce metabolic byproducts, toxic proteins like amyloid beta and tau. If these proteins are allowed to accumulate, they form the plaques and tangles associated with neurodegenerative diseases. But during deep sleep, the glial cells in the brain actually shrink, opening up the spaces between the neurons and allowing the cerebrospinal fluid to wash through the neural tissue like a biological dishwasher. It physically flushes the toxic waste out of the brain and into the circulatory system to be eliminated. This physical cleansing of the brain is the foundation upon which the psychological healing of the dream state is built. You cannot have a healthy mind in a toxic brain. The physical restoration of slow-wave sleep prepares the neurological canvas for the emotional masterpieces of REM sleep. Consider the sheer mechanical brilliance of the visual cortex during this state. In your waking life, your visual cortex processes the photons of light that enter your eyes, translating electromagnetic radiation into the shapes, colors, and textures of the physical world. It is a system entirely dependent on external input. But when you enter the landscape of dreams, your eyes are closed. The room is dark. There are no photons striking your retinas. And even so, you see. You notice with astonishing, terrifying clarity. You see faces of people long gone. You see landscapes of impossible geometry. You see colors that seem more vibrant than anything in the waking world. How is this visual masterpiece achieved in absolute darkness? It is the work of the thalamus, the grand relay station of the brain. During the day, the thalamus takes sensory information from your eyes, ears, and skin, and routes it upward to the conscious cortex. But when REM sleep arrives, the thalamus reverses its operation. It closes the gates to the outside world, blocking the sounds of the night and the feeling of the sheets. And instead, it begins to relay internal signals from your memory centers directly down into your visual cortex. Your brain is literally hallucinating, generating a hyper-realistic, three-dimensional virtual reality from the inside out. It is projecting the abstract data of your memories onto the dark screen of your closed eyelids, rendering the invisible visible. And as you navigate these internal visions, another crucial brain region, the anterior cingulate cortex, is undergoing a profound transformation. During your waking hours, the anterior cingulate cortex is the physical location of emotional pain. When you experience rejection, when you feel the sting of social isolation, when your heart is broken, it is this specific region of the brain that lights up with intense neurological activity. It is the exact same region that activates when you experience physical pain. To the brain, a broken bone and a broken heart are processed in the exact same neurological real estate. This is why emotional suffering feels so physically agonizing. But as you slip deeper into the sanctuary of the dream, the cooling presence of GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, begins to wash over the anterior cingulate cortex. GABA acts like a biological brake pedal, physically slowing the firing rate of the neurons, hushing the frantic electrical signals of emotional distress. The pain receptors are quieted. The burning sensation of social and emotional anxiety is gently extinguished. It is within this profound neurological silence that the subconscious mind begins its most delicate work, repairing the microscopic fractures in your sense of self. We are, fundamentally, social creatures, forged in the crucible of ancient tribes and ancestral fires. For millions of years, our survival depended entirely on our connection to the group. To be cast out was to face certain death in the wilderness. And because of this, our brains evolved an exquisite, agonizing sensitivity to social dynamics. We constantly monitor the micro-expressions of others, the subtle shifts in tone, the fleeting glances of approval or disapproval. This hypervigilance is exhausting. It consumes vast amounts of metabolic energy and leaves our nervous systems frayed and deeply fatigued. But the dreamscape offers a total reprieve from the terrifying complexity of human interaction. When you dream, even when you dream of other people, you are entirely alone. The people in your dreams are not external beings. They are projections of your own psyche. They are fragmented archetypes, mirrors reflecting different aspects of your own inner world. You are interacting exclusively with yourself. This radical isolation is exactly what the social brain needs to heal. Without the pressure of actual social consequence, without the fear of genuine rejection, you are free to explore the full spectrum of your emotional reality. You can express the anger you have carefully suppressed. You can weep with the sorrow you have bravely hidden. You can experience the profound, unconditional love you have been too terrified to accept. The dreaming mind provides a perfectly safe, perfectly insulated container for the explosive energies of the human heart. It is a space where you can safely detonate the emotional bombs of your waking life, watching the shock waves ripple through the virtual reality of your mind, knowing that no one will be hurt, knowing that nothing will be destroyed, knowing that you will wake up in the morning perfectly intact. This is the ultimate function of the dream. As therapy, it allows you to process the unbearable without having to actually bear it. It takes the raw, untamed wilderness of your subconscious and turns it into a perfectly regulated, neurochemically optimized, healing environment. And the only price of admission is that you must surrender. You must let go of the illusion of control. The waking ego believes it is the master of the ship, charting the course, turning the wheel, commanding the sails. But the ego is merely a tiny vessel bobbing on the surface of an infinitely deep, infinitely powerful ocean. The true power, the true wisdom, the true driving force of your psychological life resides in the unfathomable depths of the subconscious. Deep within the temporal lobe, the hippocampus is engaging in an extraordinary phenomenon known as sharp wave ripples. These are explosive bursts of electrical activity, firing at incredibly high frequencies. Sometimes they erupt 200 times per second. far faster than anything the brain produces during wakefulness. With each sharp wave ripple, the hippocampus takes a specific memory from the day and violently compresses it. It takes a sequence of events that unfolded over several minutes in the waking world and fires the exact sequence of neurons in a fraction of a millisecond. It is a hyperspeed playback of your life, firing the data upward into the vast storage vaults of the neocortex. This high-speed compression is necessary because the brain is racing against the clock of the night. It has only a few hours to sift through the massive psychological database of your day. Identify the crucial lessons. Extract the emotional meaning. And physically rewire the synaptic connections of your brain before the morning sun triggers the awakening. This physical rewiring, this neuroplasticity, is the literal foundation of human growth. When we say that sleep is restorative, we do not merely mean that it replenishes energy. We mean that it physically rebuilds the architecture of your mind. The neurons actually grow new synaptic branches, reaching out in the dark to connect with other neurons, forming entirely new networks of understanding. The person who wakes up in the morning is biologically and psychologically different from the person who went to sleep. You have been fundamentally upgraded by the nocturnal intelligence of your own biology. Consider the profound grace of this system. The universe is chaotic. Life is relentlessly demanding. And the human heart is exquisitely fragile. We are constantly being broken, chipped, and exhausted by the sheer friction of existing in the world. If we had to rely solely on our conscious efforts to heal ourselves, if we had to consciously process every trauma, consciously rewire every memory, consciously manage the infinite complexity of our neurochemistry, we would collapse under the impossible weight of it. But nature, in her infinite wisdom, did not leave this critical task to the fragile, overwhelmed waking ego. She entrusted it to the silent, invisible, perfect mechanisms of sleep. She designed a sanctuary where the ego is put to rest, where the conscious mind is deactivated, and where the deepest, most ancient intelligence of the body takes over. It is a daily, mandatory retreat into the healing waters of the subconscious. All you have to do, the only responsibility you have in this magnificent biological contract, is to simply let go, to close your eyes, to breathe softly, and to allow the gentle current of exhaustion to carry you away from the shores of wakefulness. So let the current take you now. Feel the physical sensation of gravity pulling you deeper into the mattress. An irresistible, comforting force anchoring you to the earth. Listen to the subtle, rhythmic sound of your own breath. A continuous, hypnotic metronome guiding you into the stillness. Notice how the thoughts in your mind are beginning to slow down, becoming fragmented, losing their sharp edges. The logical narratives are unraveling, dissolving into the abstract, floating imagery of the hypnagogic state. The transition has begun. The locus coeruleus is shutting down. The noradrenaline is fading. The amygdala is preparing its stage. And the thalamus is closing the gates to the outside world. You are perfectly safe, perfectly held, perfectly supported by the immense, quiet power of the night. Drift without resistance, fall without fear, and surrender your mind to the beautiful, healing, infinite landscape of the dream. As the relentless momentum of the waking world finally begins to quiet, and the heavy, velvet curtain of the night falls softly across the sky, your mind embarks upon its most profound and mysterious journey. We often think of sleep as a simple dimming of the lights, a passive state of nothingness where the brain simply powers down to rest. But the reality unfolding beneath the surface of your awareness is so much more magnificent. It is a bustling, microscopic metropolis of restoration, a breathtaking symphony of neurochemistry and biological engineering, all perfectly orchestrated to prepare you for the profound clarity of the coming dawn. To truly understand the miracle of waking up, to comprehend the sheer, crystalline focus that the morning provides, we must first travel deep into the hidden architecture of the sleeping brain. We must witness the monumental labor that occurs only in the deepest, most undisturbed realms of your unconsciousness. The journey toward morning clarity begins with a gentle closing of the gates. Deep within the central core of your brain lies a magnificent, walnut-shaped structure known as the thalamus. Throughout your waking hours, the thalamus serves as the grand sensory relay station of your consciousness. It is the gatekeeper of your reality, constantly receiving a torrential downpour of information from your eyes, your ears, your skin, and routing these signals to the vast, folding landscapes of the cerebral cortex to be processed and understood. Every sound you hear, every texture you feel, every color that paints your waking world must first pass through the tireless gates of the thalamus. But as you lie down, as you close your eyes and surrender to the dark, a beautiful shift occurs. The thalamus begins to gently pull the doors shut. It actively blocks the sensory information of the outside world from reaching your higher cortex. It creates a sacred, isolated sanctuary within your skull, insulating your mind from the noises of the street, the shifting of the wind, the subtle changes in the room. It is the brain's way of turning inward, cutting the tether to the external universe so that the vital, internal work of healing can finally begin. Once the gates of perception are softly closed, your brainwaves begin their slow, majestic descent. The high-frequency, chaotic beta waves of your anxious, thinking day begin to smooth out into the rolling dotto, rhythmic alpha waves of deep relaxation. And as you sink deeper still these give way to the slow, oceanic swells of delta waves. In this profound depth, the heavy lifting of memory consolidation takes center stage. Deep within the temporal lobe lies the hippocampus, an elegant, seahorse-shaped structure that acts as the temporary gathering place for everything you have experienced, learned, and felt during the day. Throughout your waking hours, the hippocampus acts like a sponge, absorbing the infinite details of your existence. But its capacity is limited. If it were not emptied, you would lose the ability to form new memories, and the clarity of your mind would become choked by the sheer volume of unfiltered experience. And so, under the cover of delta waves, the hippocampus begins to rapidly replay the events of your day, firing electrical signals in the exact same patterns that occurred when you first experienced them. It communicates with the neocortex, the vast, wrinkled outer layer of your brain, transferring these fragile, temporary impressions into the secure, permanent archives of your long-term memory. This transfer is a literal, physical rewiring of your brain. Millions of microscopic synapses are strengthened, intricately binding new knowledge into the vast web of who you are. But the elegance of this system lies not just in what it saves, but in what it gently discards. Your brain engages in a process called synaptic pruning. It identifies the trivial, the unnecessary, the fleeting fragments of sensory noise that serve no purpose. The face of a stranger in a crowd, the color of a passing car, the mundane details that clutter the mind, and it physically dissolves the synaptic connections that hold them. This beautiful, biological act of forgetting is the very foundation of morning clarity. By clearing away the static, your brain creates vast, open spaces of neural real estate, ensuring that when you wake, your mind is not a hoarder's room of useless data, but a clean, minimalist canvas, ready to absorb the world anew. Yet, cognitive clarity requires more than just the sorting of fact. It requires the profound healing of your emotional self. As your sleep cycle transitions from the deep, dreamless delta waves into the rapid eye movement stage, the REM stage, you enter the emotional crucible of the night. REM sleep is the domain of your most vivid, narrative dreams. But it is also an overnight therapy session, designed with an evolutionary brilliance that is almost hard to fathom. During REM sleep, a remarkable neurochemical event occurs. The locus coeruleus, a nucleus in the brainstem responsible for producing noradrenaline, the brain's equivalent of adrenaline, completely shuts down. For the only time in the entire 24-hour cycle, your brain is entirely devoid of this stress-inducing, anxiety-provoking chemical. And yet, at the exact same moment, the emotion processing centers of your brain, like the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex, become up to 30% more active than when you are wide awake. In this unique, chemical-free environment, your brain takes the most emotionally charged, too difficult, and painful memories of your day, and it plays them back to you in the form of dreams. It forces you to confront the stress of your life, but it does so in a neurochemical sanctuary where the physical sensation of panic cannot exist. The emotional sharp edges of your experiences are gently sanded down. The memory of a stressful event is carefully separated from the visceral, crippling anxiety that originally accompanied it. This uncoupling of memory and emotion is the reason why a problem that seemed insurmountable, deeply devastating, and heavy in the dark hours of the night suddenly feels manageable, smaller, and infinitely less threatening in the light of the morning. You have not just slept. You have been emotionally recalibrated. Your fears have been processed in the safe, quiet theater of your dreams, allowing you to wake with a mind that is resilient, balanced, and free from the heavy emotional anchors of yesterday. And while the hippocampus sorts your memories, and the REM cycles soothe your emotional wounds, an even more miraculous physical transformation is taking place deep within the tissues of your brain. Throughout the day, the relentless, beautiful exertion of your consciousness produces a heavy cost. Every thought, every calculation, every surge of emotion requires energy. And the metabolic combustion of this energy leaves behind microscopic debris, proteins like beta amyloid and tau, alongside a sleep-inducing molecule called adenosine, slowly build up in the infinitesimal spaces between your neurons, hanging suspended in the delicate, grey architecture of your mind. If left to accumulate, this cellular ash would choke the vibrant networks of your consciousness, clouding your thoughts and dampening the vibrant colors of your cognitive clarity. But evolution has gifted you with a breathtaking mechanism of purification, a hidden tide that rises only when the world falls away. This is the glymphatic system, a term that barely captures the poetic majesty of its function. As you sink into the deepest stages of slow-wave sleep, the star-shaped cells of your brain, the astrocytes, which stand as the silent, microscopic guardians of your neural galaxy, begin to do something entirely miraculous. They change their physical shape. They pull back their delicate, branching tendrils, causing the actual brain cells to shrink. This stunning physical retraction widens the hidden channels and pathways within your brain by up to 60%. And then, the tide comes in. The cerebrospinal fluid. The pristine, crystal clear ocean that cradles your brain and spinal cord is drawn upward. It pulses in perfect rhythm with the slow, resting cadence of your heartbeat and the deep, steady expansion of your lungs. It sweeps through the newly widened channels of your mind like a subterranean river, washing over the intricate networks of your memories, purifying the overheated engines of your prefrontal cortex. As this clear, cool fluid flows, It dissolves the heavy fog of adenosine. It flushes out the beta amyloid and the tau proteins, sweeping away the molecular exhaustion of your waking hours. It is a literal, physical washing of the mind, preparing you, cell by cell, synapse by synapse, for the profound gift of a new day. And as the night gradually wanes, as the earth continues its silent, majestic rotation, slowly tilting your hemisphere back toward the warmth of the sun, the internal chemistry of your mind begins to subtly shift, orchestrating the grand, silent symphony of your awakening. The morning does not just bring new light, it brings a chemically renewed mind. Long before you open your eyes, long before the first photon of sunlight strikes your resting face, an ancien, microscopic master clock buried deep within your hypothalamus begins to stir. This is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a cluster of 20,000 neurons that holds the absolute rhythm of your biological destiny. Even through your closed eyelids, specialized retinal ganglion cells at the back of your eyes sense the subtle, changing gradient of the ambient light in the room. They send a delicate, electrical whisper down the optic nerve, directly to the master clock, signaling that the long journey of the night is coming to an end. Slowly, gracefully, the heavy, comforting blanket of melatonin, the hormone that has held you so tenderly in the deep embrace of sleep, begins to dissipate, melting away like silver morning mist over a quiet, undisturbed lake. In its place, the adrenal glands, resting quietly atop your kidneys, receive the signal to begin their daily work. They release a precise, beautifully orchestrated surge of cortisol into your bloodstream. This is known as the cortisol awakening response. In the fast-paced modern world, we so often misunderstand cortisol, fearing it as the chemical of stress and panic. But in the sacred, quiet hours of the morning, cortisol is the molecule of life itself. It is the internal sunrise, the biological spark that ignites the engine of your metabolism. It gently raises your core body temperature from its deep nocturnal low. It increases the flow of rich, oxygenated blood to your resting muscles. And it bathes your brain in the precise neurochemical light required to pull your consciousness up from the oceanic depths of the dreaming mind, back to the solid shores of reality. This profound neurochemical dawn is accompanied by a beautiful, complete restoration of your vital neurotransmitters. Over the course of the long night, as your brain was washed and purified by the glymphatic tide, the deep reservoirs of your emotional chemistry were slowly, meticulously refilled. Serotonin, the beautiful molecule of calm, of emotional stability, of quiet, unshakable contentment, pools deeply in the synapses of your limbic system, creating a solid, peaceful foundation as you prepare to face the world. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation, of curiosity, of desire and drive, gathers in the vast pathways of the basal ganglia and the prefrontal cortex, waiting like a coiled spring to propel you forward into the boundless possibilities of the day. Because these chemical reservoirs are full to the brim, and because the heavy, obscuring fog of adenosine has been completely washed away, your mind emerges from the dark, possessing a crystalline, luminous clarity that simply cannot be replicated at any other time of day. Psychologists and neuroscientists refer to this remarkable phenomenon as the morning optimism bias. A profound, biologically driven shift in your emotional perspective that makes the world feel inherently more hopeful, more manageable, and more welcoming in the early hours of the day. To truly understand the deep roots of this optimism, we must journey far back in time. Back to the ancient, ancestral environments where the human brain was slowly forged in the fires of evolution. For hundreds of thousands of years, the night was a time of immense, palpable vulnerability. Darkness concealed predators, obscured the safe paths, and isolated the tribe. This alarm center, the deep, almond-shaped sentinel of the brain, responsible for detecting threat and initiating fear, had to remain finely tuned, hypervigilant, listening in the dark for the crack of a twig, the rustle of leaves, the unseen danger moving against the stars. The night was a heavy burden of survival. But the dawn, that first light, brought the miraculous return of vision, the return of absolute safety. The warmth of the rising sun banished the chill and illuminated the shadows, rendering the unseen world visible and harmless once again. Awakening to the morning light was not just the start of a day, it was a daily, visceral victory of survival. A profound, evolutionary reassurance that you had made it through the darkness. Your modern brain still carries the deep, resonant echo of this ancient triumph. When you wake up, your beautifully refreshed prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical, executive center of your mind, easily and effortlessly reasserts its calming control over the primitive, fearful whispers of the amygdala. Because your brain has been washed clean of metabolic toxins, because your emotional memories have been safely processed and stripped of their panic during REM sleep, and because your dopamine and serotonin levels are at their absolute peak, you are biologically wired to feel optimistic. The optimism bias of the morning is not an illusion, and it is not a trick of the light. It is the profound, chemical reality of a brain that has been perfectly healed, perfectly restored, and perfectly prepared for the gift of existence. But to experience this miraculous clarity tomorrow, to feel the brilliant, internal sunrise of the cortisol awakening response, and the deep, abiding peace of the replenished serotonin, you must first allow yourself to experience the profound surrender of tonight. The intricate, breathtaking machinery of the sleeping brain cannot be forced, and it cannot be rushed. You cannot consciously command your astrocytes to shrink or your glymphatic tide to rise. You cannot order your hippocampus to sort your memories through sheer willpower. The only thing you can do, the only task that is required of you now, is to completely let go, to create the conditions of ultimate peace, and to allow the ancient innate biological wisdom of your physical body to take the reins. And so, as we explore these absolute miracles of the waking mind, let the deep, scientific knowledge of what your body is about to do bring you an enveloping, comforting sense of peace right in this very moment. Knowing that your brain is capable of such profound self-healing. Knowing that the morning will inevitably, flawlessly bring a fresh perspective, a washed mind, and a replenished spirit, means that you no longer have to hold on to the heavy worries of today. You can set them down. You can leave them right here, on the edge of the waking world, knowing with absolute certainty that the vast, dark ocean of sleep will wash them away. Feel the physical reality of this miraculous process beginning within you right now. As you lie there, resting in the quiet, listening to the slow, steady cadence of these words, your breathing is already becoming slower, deeper, infinitely more rhythmic. With every long, slow exhalation, you are sending a powerful, ancient signal to your autonomic nervous system, telling it that you are safe, that there are no dangers in the dark, that the work of the day is entirely done, and it is time to turn inward. Your parasympathetic nervous system is gracefully coming online, taking control, gently slowing the beating of your heart, relaxing the microscopic tension in the muscles of your jaw, softening your neck, letting your shoulders sink heavily into the surface beneath you. The internal temperature of your core is beginning to drop by just a fraction of a degree. But it is enough to send that powerful biological whisper deep into the center of your brain, the pineal gland, a tiny, pine cone-shaped sanctuary of neurochemistry, is opening its microscopic floodgates. It is releasing the soft, heavy, beautiful hormone of melatonin out into your bloodstream. You can almost feel it happening. A warm, liquid darkness spreading slowly through your veins, softening your thoughts, blurring the sharp edges of your awareness, gently pulling the curtains closed on the waking world. The brilliant, roaring engine of your conscious mind is finally being allowed to idle. The high-frequency beta waves, the fast, anxious electrical storms of your day, are smoothing out, becoming the gentle, rolling alpha waves of profound relaxation. Soon, they will widen even further, dissolving into the twilight realm of theta waves, where logic fades, and the beautiful, associative imagery of the dreaming mind begins to take hold, and at last, they will slow into the deep, majestic, healing rhythm of the delta waves. In your mind's eye, you can visualize the silent, star-shaped astrocytes, your loyal, microscopic guardians, preparing to step back, preparing to open the vast, hidden channels of your brain. The clear, cool, pristine tide of the cerebrospinal fluid is waiting, gathering its strength, ready to sweep away the mental fatigue, the emotional exhaustion, the heavy chemical weight of your waking hours. All you have to do is surrender to the tide. The world outside your window is quiet. The earth is turning, spinning silently through the vastness of space. The unseen, unbreakable cycles of light and dark are turning. And you are a seamless, beautiful part of that endless rhythm. There is nothing left to solve today. There is absolutely nothing left to plan, to figure out, to worry about, or to achieve. The only task that remains for you now is to close your eyes, let go of the tether, and allow the miraculous, breathtaking architecture of your mind to perform its nightly symphony of repair. The morning will come. The sun will rise again. The serotonin will pool in the quiet spaces of your mind. The optimism will bloom like a flower opening to the light. And you will wake up to perfect, crystalline clarity. But for now, let the darkness hold you. Let the heavy, velvet silence soothe you. Let the gentle, rhythmic beating of your own heart guide you down. Deeper and deeper into the most restorative, peaceful depths of the unconscious mind. Let go of the light. Let go of the words. Let go of the waking world. Surrender entirely to the soft, heavy, beautiful weight of sleep. Drift into the quiet. Drift into the peace. Sweet dreams.